Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Glory Likaibe. If this is your first time on this channel, you are welcome. And for everyone that has been coming, commenting, subscribing, and doing all the beautiful stuff, guys, I really do appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. This video is more like a part two or a part two of the previous video that I posted on documentation in South Africa. So it kind of opened a room for debate. So I would like to respond to the comments and give you, more clarity. So to get started, just as a disclaimer, okay? I have been in this country long enough as a foreigner to tell you the things that I'm telling you. So should I be telling you some of these processes, or should I telling you about these processes, or in my experience as an asylum seeker, or my husband as a critical skills person, how he acquired his documentation? It's just for me to educate you, and also for some foreigners also don't know the process. Some people really get so comfortable just waiting for word of mouth and not really going in depth and asking these relevant questions from the Department of Home Affairs. They are not taking their time to read up some of these things. That is the reason why I'm making these videos. As the immigration law is supposed to be the same for all foreigners living in South Africa. However, should you hear me say, oh, well, for Congolese, that's what it is, or for, yes, it's because sometimes ourselves, we will go for certain options, we will go for certain things in order to better our papers. We will receive answers such as, no, this is not for Congolese nationals, this is for Zimbabwean nationals, or this is for Somalians only, or this is this and this is that. South Africa has a lot of asylum seekers. A whole lot of people are under the asylum seeking documentation. So when you seek asylum into a country, you are not supposed to have documents from your own country. It's like I'm coming into your house and saying I am coming to find a refuge into your country, into your house. So if I've come to find refuge into your house, you will not expect me to go back to my house, and yes, you will not expect me to go into my house anytime soon. So for the duration that I'm in your house, you will try your best to make me as comfortable as I can for that, for the time being, and provide me with the necessary needs. A lot of people are under asylum seeking documents, and it is for different reasons. And I would say for my country, it is because of the apparent reason. You guys can see the war. It affects different parts of the country, and I've explained this. I've explained in one of my videos one of the main reasons why we relocated. I'm not gonna go into that, but yes, we also sought asylum in South Africa. So this is how I acquired my papers as an asylum seeker, and my husband also acquired his papers as a critical skills person because he did not qualify for the asylum seekers document. So now let me quickly go and just elaborate more. Should you say that foreigners are given papers to go into their countries to register their children? This does not apply. When foreigners, people in my case, and several others that I know, because I really had to go off YouTube for a while and ask relevant questions. I asked my Tanzanian sisters, I asked my Kenyan and Zimbabwean brothers and sisters, and they all gave me the same response. When a child is born in South Africa, we register our child in South Africa. Your child will be registered and recorded as a Zimbabwean descent or a Congolese descent born in South Africa. And as an asylum seeker, like I said, you are not expected to have any documentation that will take you into your home country. Should I still be under the asylum seeking documentation and choose to go back home into my country, it will, by the time I want to leave, because you buy your flight ticket, you say that you are going to Congo, whereas you are seeking asylum, you are seeking asylum in South Africa, which means you have run away from Congo for specific reasons. Should you want to leave, by the time you reach the airport, there's a documentation that you have to provide. I don't know how you call it in English, but in French we call it the tenant lieu. So you have to take that documentation to say, I no longer want to be in this country, yada yada. And in most cases, what will happen is that they will cancel your asylum seeking documents. So you'll be leaving the country, you're going back to your home country, and you are not allowed back without a passport and a visa. So I am going to be reading a question from, I'm not sure if it's a gentleman or a lady that commented on my video, and said, I doubt that SA does not allow parents to leave the country with their kids unless if their rules of immigration laws were not followed. Okay, I'm going to answer this part. SA does not allow parents to leave the country with their kids unless if their rules of immigration laws were not followed. So we really have to know, like you said, immigration laws were not followed. So we really have to be, we really have to know what kind of papers a person has, first of all. So in this case, going back home with your child for registration would not make sense, because you are not given the relevant documentation that will allow you to take your child out of the country, because South Africa does not feel that it is important. However, once you have permanent residence documents, there are certain requirements that you need to take note of before taking your child out of the country. Because should you have intentions of coming back, taking your child out of the country, even for, especially if you're going to your home country without the relevant documentation that will allow the child back into the country, it will cause a lot of problems at the airport. And this is one of the reasons why many parents, like myself as well, make sure that my child's papers are similar to mine, papers that will allow him to move in and out of South Africa should we have the need to. And then it says, tell us the truth. I think that a lot of people would have had the same problem if it was a big issue, because it's not only Africans or certain nationalities who gave birth in SA. I think that most people are given some papers for them to be able to register their kids in their country, but they don't. So due to the delay, the problem arises to them wanting and waiting for SA papers instead of just getting easy and proper papers from their country. Okay, so I think I've answered that. So we still cannot, irregardless, you cannot take your child. I'm gonna give you an example. I have a friend, she's Kenyan, her husband is Zimbabwean. Which country is she going to take a child to go and register? So yes, everywhere the child would go in his life, it will always be recorded that the child was born in South Africa. And for children who have the asylum seeker documentation as well, it is South Africa's right to protect that child, and you cannot take them out because of this child trafficking thing. It is very difficult for you to take your child out. The South African government will not make it easier for you. People don't wait for SA. It does not only wait for SA to provide us papers because we have other options. It's because that's the only option that we have. we are waiting for SA to provide us with the relevant documentation, because as a law-abiding citizen, after having lived in any country, it doesn't matter if it's in South Africa, if it's wherever you have lived for more than 3 years, you have paid, you have worked, you have contributed to the economy, you are supposed to be provided with documentation. Especially if you also don't commit any crimes, you are supposed to get any type of documentation. So I hope that has answered your question. The child will be registered in this country, but not necessarily recognized as a South African. Okay, and then another one says, if you're a mother who is not South African, you cannot be given South African documents. The Department of Health, if you are a mother who is not South African, you cannot be given South African documents, which is true. If I'm a mother that is not South African, I cannot be given documents that are South African. And yes, even the permanent residence that I have has one number that shows that I'm not originally from South Africa. So the only way that I will somehow be recognized as a South African is if I apply for citizenship and, you know, become a South African by naturalization. So yes, that's I'm answering to the first part of the question. So the Department of Health will give you documentation that will assist you to register for necessary certification in your country, which I told you again, it is not true. My child cannot be recorded in my country because my child was not born in my country. My child was born outside of the country, and my child should be recorded in his country of birth. Okay, and then it says, and yes, you can be able to get things for immunization and vaccination in South Africa using your country's documents, which is also not true. So this is only if you came into South Africa with a passport and a visa, and you came here, you know, you got sick or something, or you came here for treatment. This is one of the reasons why, okay, in this case, you can go and seek for all this you know, this type of assistance from any hospital in South Africa. And it says your child can still be able to go to school in South Africa using those documents, which is also not true. So in this case, should you be in the country, or should you have come into the country maybe with children, and during your stay here, one of you happens to fall sick, either you or your child falls sick during this time, you can get medical treatment from the hospital, from South African hospitals, using your passport, your valid passport. But should your documents expire while you are still in the country, while you are still seeking medical attention or following up on your medical treatment, then you will be required to apply for an extension. Or should you have children, before your children can go to school, you will need to apply for a study visa, and you can use that receipt, and your children can study in the country using that receipt to show that you have indeed applied for a study visa. And you also have to go to your embassy and make sure that you update your passport as well. The child is born in South Africa, the child has to use documentation provided by South Africa and not your country of origin. Your son being born here is not automatic that they will get South African documents. Okay, let me clarify this. So right now, our Minister of Home Affairs is Tate Aaron Motsoaledi. So one thing that happens when it comes to foreigners' documents is that every minister comes with his own rules and regulations. Right now, things are in this way, and then before you know it, another minister comes and he makes his own decisions. So you always need to be up to, like, you need to be up to, you know, up to speed. You need to be up to date with everything. Should you not be, you miss out on certain opportunities. So my son being born here right now, like I would say after 2013, I think when Minister Gigaba was in place, children that are born from parents that are permanent residents can no longer automatically get the South African permanent residence permit. So yes, that one, it is true, but it was not like this before. What happened before was, as long as both parents already have South African papers, well, South African permanent resident papers, back in the days, it was easy for the person to, like, for the baby to immediately get access to that as well, which is something that we also did not know until we gave birth to our own children. Then we started discovering all these new changes that occurred. Okay, it says any child born to a foreigner in South Africa is not a citizen, which is true. They record the birth of your baby, of your child, sorry, and give you proof but you have to go to your country to register their birth. There we go again. This is not a part of it. It says this happens all over the world, which is not true. Should I give birth to my child in any other country, let's say in Europe or in America, my child will not be regarded as a foreigner. The child will be regarded as a child of that country. And you know, in some foreign countries elsewhere, the parents will even get document through the child. You don't want to live in a country and not have documents, because when you don't have documents, there's a whole lot of things that you cannot do. And mind you, even with the asylum seeker documentation, guys, I am telling you, one day I'll do a video on just what you have access to as an asylum seeker and what you don't have access to. Guys, it's a whole lot of disadvantages there, and that is why people try their best to get more than just that. Okay, and says, it's annoying, honestly, we are fed up because these people are so quick to call us xenophobic, but wouldn't they leave this country? Okay, so let me answer this question in the best way that I can. Okay, this statement right here. I come from a family of 7, which means I have 4 siblings, and I have my mom and dad, of course. We were all under the PR, okay? Sorry, we were all under the asylum seeking document. However, out of the 7, only 2 of us, me and my younger brother, of course, me and my immediate brother, are the only ones who have PR. Okay, we have our permanent resident documents. For people that have been here for over 20 years, this is all we have. Okay, and let me tell you something. 90% of foreigners that I know that were under the same documents that I was under, the asylum seekers, most of them, the moment they acquire their permanent residence, they immediately apply for the South African refugee travel document. And the first thing they think of, how can I move? Most people that I know that acquired the permanent residence, many of them are no longer in South Africa. Believe you me. Giving us papers and not keeping us under the asylum seeking documents give us access to a whole lot of things outside of South Africa. Okay? And another thing that many people don't know is that South Africa receives funds from the UN. They do receive funds for having this amount of refugees in the country. So somehow it goes back to the top. Should the top not have allowed this amount of people, or this allowed a whole lot of us in here, it was never going to be the case. I'm going to read a comment from, I think it was, I'm not sure if it's a gentleman or a woman, that says, South African immigration laws apply the same, notwithstanding whether you're Congolese, Kenyan, Malawian, or any other national, which is completely true. You can't say as a Congolese. Otherwise, this video is for Congolese people, of which I've also clarified in this video. The laws should apply to everybody, but this is not what we always get, okay? This is not the treatment, this is not the response that we always get from Home Affairs officials, because sometimes even Home Affairs officials themselves don't know what is going on. So if an Home Affairs official does not know what's going on, where does that leave us as foreigners? Okay, so it's also important to understand immigration laws in this country before one goes public with comments like this. Yes, before I went public with these comments, I really took my time, and I've lived most of these things, so I know what I'm talking about. It says, what is said to note is that you said foreigners must not give birth in SA. Really now? And yes, my brother, oh my sister, yes, this is what I mean. Foreigners should not give to a lot of kids in this country. With the current state of documentation processes and all these difficulties that comes with getting yourself documented or moving up the grid, I will not really advise anyone to really get that. I came to South Africa in the early 2000s. The immigration laws were different around that time. I think we got papers very easily around that time because there was not a lot of us. However, as time went by, having to grow up in this country, having to see the challenges that I had to go through, my brothers and I had to go through. And some of my brothers are still going through those struggles because of papers, because of documentation. I would really not advise a lot of foreigners to have a lot of kids in this country. If you want to have 1, 2, 3 is the maximum. If you know, of course, you can afford it. Affording it is not even enough. You need to also be able to give them the documentation that will allow them to work, not only work and study, but what kind of work are they going to do? For example, some of my brothers are engineers, but they can't work. They can't get jobs in certain, of course, foreigners cannot work for government jobs. I'm not talking about government jobs, but even so, even these private sectors, it is so difficult to find jobs because they have to give it to South Africans. And yeah, they have to give it to South Africans. So you have to look for papers to allow you. Once you have the correct papers, you can even look elsewhere. So how are you going to look elsewhere when you don't have papers to even travel? You don't have documentation for you to travel. So in this case, yes, this is what I mean. Do not give birth to a lot of children if you don't know how you're going to provide them with papers. Providing them with money for them to study is not enough. It has just to be more than that. One day I'm going to share with you guys a video of how I reacted the day I finally received my South African refugee travel document, or should I call it passport. I cried because it was a 20-year battle to get it. You know what I mean? In some countries, in other countries all over the world, you could get it with the type of documentation that we had. We could have gotten that documentation in in 10 years or even 15 years, in 10 years at least maximum, we would have gotten the papers. But that was not our case. So I know the challenges that goes with that, and says you can't advise people based on how you were treated and not based on the question of law. In this case, the immigration laws. Yes, the immigration laws should be followed, but are they always followed? That's the question. It's not that when I'm explaining to you, it's not that I'm explaining to you on how I was treated. I'm telling you, I'm being very open about the procedures that are being followed when it comes to documentation, or it comes to foreigners getting the proper documents that they need in this country. Because like I keep saying, a lot of foreigners are stuck under the asylum seeking documents, and it's frustrating. It's really frustrating when everything you need to do, you have to stretch yourself, you have to negotiate, you have to do this, you have to do that. Should someone give birth in this country during their stay, when they have a visa, they have a valid passport from their country, one very important thing is that they will be given a documentation. The child's birth will be recorded. They'll be given a documentation that will allow them to leave the country with their child. But they have to go and apply they have to go through a process of applying for a passport for their child at their own embassy here in South Africa. Once they have the passport, they can now get their stuff and leave. Okay, because when you're going to your country of origin, you don't normally need a visa. Hey guys, thank you so much. I'm going to stop it right here. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the questions. Thank you so much for the constructive feedback. Even for those who are fighting in the comment section, I still appreciate you guys. That means that you have really watched the video. So thank you so much, and God bless you all. Bye.